This is Ian King Live, the top stories today.
Prince Harry to take centre stage in his fight against the tabloid press. Legal teams for the Duke of Sussex and Mirror Group newspapers are to set out their opening arguments today.
The main business stories. Oil prices rise as Saudi Arabia says it will cut production by 1 million barrels a day in July. And BP and Heathrow among companies joining a new business council to challenge the beleaguered CBI. Plus, new car registrations in the UK up for the 10th consecutive month.
A very good morning from the High Court, where Prince Harry is preparing to give evidence in court this week in his alleged phone hacking case against the publisher of the Mirror newspaper. Prince Harry will be the first senior royal to appear as a witness at the High Court since 1891, when the heir to the throne, Prince Edward, was called to give evidence in a case about cheating at cards. Well, Prince Harry's lawyers and Mirror Group newspapers' legal team are due to set out their opening arguments on the case today. The Duke of Sussex has said it's his life's work to change the tabloid media landscape. Prince Harry claims journalists at the Mirror Group, which includes the Sunday Mirror and Sunday People, were linked to methods including phone hacking, so-called blagging, or gaining information by deception and use of private investigators for unlawful activities. Well, you only need to look at the number of cameras here outside the High Court to see the true historic nature of this moment. We are expecting Prince Harry to be in court today. So far, no sign of the Duke of Sussex. We're standing by awaiting for his arrival. In the meantime, we can speak to our royal correspondent, Laura Bundock, who's with me and will be throughout the week. Good to see you, Laura. Such a big moment for Prince Harry.
This is an absolutely huge moment for him. And walking just round the corner from this court, there's this huge statue of Prince Albert. And I was reminded it was his son, Edward VII, then Prince of Wales, who was the last senior royal to give evidence, taking the witness box, taking the witness stand at the High Court. And now we have, over 130 years later, Prince Harry coming to do just that. He has spoken at length about the huge distress he felt, the media intrusion into his personal life, into his family life, into his professional life had as he grew up.
We've got to come back to you in just a second. I'm going to hand back to Ian King.
Yeah, in a moment we will be coming to the main business news stories, but first we're going to another development in the Philip Schofield scandal that's engulfed ITV. In the last few moments, Holly Willoughby has returned to This Morning and has been talking about the fallout since her former co-presenter admitted to having an affair with a younger member of staff. Joining me now is our correspondent Milena Veselinovic, who is at Television Centre. We're going to hear from Holly Willoughby first, though.
Firstly, are you OK? I hope so. Feels very strange indeed sitting here without Phil. And I imagine that you might have been feeling a lot like I have. Shaken, troubled, let down, worried for the well-being of people on all sides of what's been going on, and full of questions. You, me, and all of us at This Morning gave our love and support to someone who was not telling the truth, who acted in a way that they themselves felt that they had to resign from ITV and step down from a career that they loved. That is a lot to process. And it's equally hard to see the toll that it's taken on their own mental health. I think what unites us all now is a desire to heal for the health and well-being of everyone. I hope that as we start this new chapter and get back to a place of warmth and magic that this show holds for all of us, we can find strength in each other. And from my heart, can I just say thank you for all of your kind messages and thank you for being here this morning. Myself, Josie, Dermot, Alison, Craig and every single person that works on this show will continue to work hard every single day to bring you this show that we love. So on that note, Josie...
Come here, you. Bring it in. Bring it in.
Thank you.
All right.
Thank you. I need a Josie cuddle.
Oh.
Thank you. Thank you, thank you.
Our correspondent Milena Veselinovic is at Television Centre in West London, which is where the ITV studio that broadcasts This Morning is. Milena.
Well, clearly an attempt there by Holly Willoughby to really draw a line under this scandal that's really been unfolding over the next few weeks. She was also an integral part of it. She had to come out on Instagram and say that she indeed had no idea that Philip Schofield was having this affair with his much younger colleague. She said that that was very hurtful because he lied directly to her, something that he had in a subsequent interview confirmed. So now coming out for the first time on the sofa since this scandal broke out, a real attempt to say that, the ITV family want to put this behind them. The feeling of also, I suppose, betrayal from one of her most closest co-workers, that this affair was indeed going on and that she was indeed lied to about that, and a real attempt to just put it all behind them and move on with the program. But of course that really won't be possible because there is an external review that will take place, led by a barrister, into how ITV handled that investigation into rumours of that affair when it first emerged back in 2019 and 2020. And not only that, Dame Caroline McCall, the ITV CEO, will also have to answer questions from MPs on the 14th of June on safeguarding practices at ITV, as well as how it handles complaints, because there have been many complaints of a toxic workplace culture coming from, for example, one of the show's former resident doctors, Dr. Ranj Singh, who said that he was a whistleblower on that culture who was then managed out. Now, we also heard from Martin Frizzell, one of the show's editors, who said that that was perhaps score settling. So today, Holly Willoughby's appearance, just trying to move past the last 2 weeks, move on and just get on with her job.
Thanks, Milena. Well, we will be coming to the business news very shortly, I promise you. But in the meantime, we're going back now to Sally Lockwood at the High Court. Sally.
Thanks very much, Ian. Bouncing around between breaking news there. But luckily for us, we didn't miss that arrival shot of Prince Harry. Still no sign of the Duke of Sussex, but of course a very, very big day for Prince Harry as his lawyer begins laying out his case against the Mirror Group newspaper. And of course we will be hearing from Prince Harry himself, appearing in the witness box from tomorrow. Could be sooner, we don't know, but certainly we'll be hearing from him this week. A big moment for Prince Harry and a very brave moment, many would say. And we're going to bring you all of the events as they unfold in court, live here on the Sky News channel and also on our live blog, which you can follow on the Sky News mobile app. Now, throughout the events today and this week, I'll be joined by our royal correspondent, Laura Bundock, and Jonathan Coe, media lawyer. Great to have you both with us. I cut you off there, Laura, because of that breaking news on ITV. But let's just pick up. You were talking about the historic nature and the significance of this moment for Prince Harry.
Yes, I mean, he will attempt to argue that from a very young age, so the first of his 33 articles is when he was not even a teenager, his mother was still alive, had this huge amount of intrusion into his private, his personal, his family, his professional life. Intrusion that resulted in newspaper articles he is claiming can only have been written with information that was illegally obtained. And these are articles, a lot of them about his relationship with his ex-girlfriend Chelsea Davies, some of them about his time in the army, some of them about Prince William. They span a huge and very important part of his life. We know a lot about Harry, don't we? We've had his memoir, we've had the Oprah interview, we've had the Netflix series, the subsequent interviews he's given, but it has always been on his terms. He will find himself in alien territory when he comes here, takes the witness stand, and will have his whole argument tried to be torn apart by the lawyers for the Mirror Group newspapers. They will be picking apart what he says, they will be denying that they use these illegal activities for him, and they will be trying to take him down a rabbit hole, if you like. He will not want to go off proof. He will have his statement, but they will be goading him to try and say things that will get him to reveal information. And don't forget, some of these stories are about pretty explosive parts of his life. It will be huge revelations, but as we know, Harry has a much higher purpose here. He wants to, as he puts it, change the media landscape. He says this is his life's work, but he believes not only were they acting inappropriately, They were breaking the law, and he wants some of the senior newspaper executives who knew, he says, what was going on, thrown into jail. Those are his exact words. That is his bigger purpose here.
Yeah, certainly, Jonathan, as Laura was saying there, you know, this is deeply personal for Prince Harry. He's talked in depth before in media interviews about how the British tabloids have impacted his life, the role that he believes they played in his mother's death. He wants his day in court, but of course he will have been offered opportunities to settle before this moment, won't he?
The key thing about this case is it was never going to settle. And one of the reasons why Mr. Justice Fancourt decided to take this amongst a whole plethora of cases, because it was clear to him it wasn't going to settle. And this is the great dread for the Mirror, because the other newspapers have been able to buy off claimants. And on that basis, you know, they've been able to cover up their wrongdoing, partly by spending vast sums of money in compensation, but also spending vast sums of money on lawyers, which is a bit of an irony given the complaints they make about the use of lawyers to protect other people's privacy. But the key thing here is that on behalf, I think, of a lot of other people, Prince Harry is being a bit of a warrior and saying, do you know what? I have been a particular victim of press abuse. I'm going to pick up the baton. I'm going to fight like I fought the Taliban. I'm going to fight them. And it is that serious for Mirror executives, because, of course, executives from News International ended up in jail. Well, at least Andy Coulson did. Yeah. And as far as he's concerned, I imagine that he has Piers Morgan in his crosshairs, who's popping up as a sort of like Banquo's ghost. And he'll be hoping that one way or another, at least there'll be a finding of fact by the judge that Piers Morgan knew what was going on.
Yeah, and certainly for many, after the Leveson inquiry, many felt that there was unfinished business. It's going to be a very interesting week indeed. Laura, Jonathan, back to you shortly. Thanks very much indeed. And we're going to be bringing you live events as they unfold in court. There's no camera in court, but we have a Sky News team in there who'll be bringing us events as they unfold on our Sky News live blog on the mobile app, and we'll be breaking those lines and giving you analysis here on the Sky News channel as well. I'll be back with more on the Prince Harry court case very shortly, but in the meantime, you can scan the QR code on your screen right now, which will take you to continuing coverage on that live blog. And there'll also be a special programme each evening at 9 p.m. this week, examining the case and exactly what we've heard in court. Back to Ian King.
Thanks, Sally. Now, the British Chambers of Commerce has announced a new business council to rival the beleaguered CBI. The BCC says it's part of a new national offer to businesses. Among the companies who've signed up are BP, Heathrow, Drax and the hotel operator IHG. Well, joining me now is Siobhan Haviland. She's Director General of the British Chambers of Commerce. Siobhan, welcome to you. I mean, this is all very opportunistic timing, isn't it? The CBI is facing a vote on its future tomorrow.
Morning, Ian. Yes, indeed, the CBI are facing a vote on its future tomorrow, and they've got some key challenges, but we absolutely wish them well. We hope it happens for them. As they have said, they've got a long road ahead to fix things, but, you know, we are not competing with the CBI. We want to see them do well. Business Council that we are launching today is about giving business a voice. We are at a really crucial moment. We're at a pivotal point for our economy. We're probably, a year, 18 months away from a general election. And time is of the essence. You know, this is about policy development. It's about bringing business together around the table so we can look at some of those key economic challenges and opportunities, of course, and feed them into the election manifestos for next year.
Siobhan, one of the great strengths traditionally of the British Chambers of Commerce is that very regional aspect to it. You have the regional chambers reporting into the sort of national body. Isn't this going to dilute the sort of localness of the BCC?
So our chamber network, Ian, just to say, they don't report into the BCC. They are our members. We are their collective voice. And this actually will do the opposite. All our business council members are members of their local chambers. It is crucial that they are part of that national, local, regional infrastructure, as well as our international strength around the world. So this is an enhancement. This is an addition to their local membership of their chambers. And I mean, they are telling us that strength that we have, hundreds of people around the country helping businesses every day, is why the British Chambers of Commerce is such a great organisation to work with.
You've said that you're not trying to compete with the CBI here, but the timing of this, as I say, looks incredibly opportunistic. The CBI facing this crucial vote tomorrow. I mean, you surely are. It looks like you're trying to take some of their members almost.
This work has been long in development. As you know, I've been in this job a couple of years now, and the last 5-6 years we've seen Brexit, COVID, rampant inflation, energy price issues, trouble getting people. Business has been facing a lot of problems. And at the end of last year, we started the development of our new campaign, Where Business Belongs. We launched that at our global conference 3 weeks ago. We had Jeremy Hunt, the Chancellor of the Exchequer, we had the Governor of the Bank of England, we had Keir Starmer there talking about it. And this is the next step in that campaign. We launched our economic advisory panel last week, and next week we will be doing a report for the Climate Change Committee. So it's all part of business as usual for us.
How much will you be charging those companies that sign up to this business council? Will it be less than the CBI was charging for membership?
Well, I don't know what the CBI charges for membership. I don't believe they publish that. And, those are commercially sensitive conversations. But the point here is it's about ensuring that business have a choice and they have a voice. And business needs to be represented now. Their voice needs to be heard by government. We need to look at the economic challenges. Digital revolution, green innovation, people and work, our place in the world and our local high streets. And that's what the Business Council is all about.
Siobhan, you just said you wish the CBI well. I mean, it's perfectly possible that if this vote goes against them tomorrow, they may have to wind themselves up. But if they don't, you're going to have to work with them in future, as part of the so-called Big Five trade and business bodies.
Yes, absolutely. We've worked with the CBI for the last 2 years, almost weekly basis as the B5 in with government. And we are hoping that the CBI get themselves back on the road, and we look forward to working with them again in the future.
All right, Siobhan, got to leave it there. Appreciate you joining me today. Thank you.
Thank you.
Our senior trade ministers from across the Commonwealth are meeting in London today. Top of the agenda, digital trade and how to improve international access for businesses in 54 countries to new global markets. Well, the main focus is on how to ditch paper documents for digital data flows, which could reportedly help boost trade revenue by billions of pounds. Well, joining me now is Chris Southworth. He's Secretary General of the International Chambers of Commerce UK. Chris, welcome to you. It is the case right now that all international trade documents have to be in physical paper form, isn't it?
All the commercial trade documents currently, with the exception of 7 countries, have to be on paper, and that's part of the problem, of course, when we're trying to modernise the trading system. This is ultimately all about making sure that the trading system is fit for purpose for the 21st century, and of course that means going digital. We're just inheriting a system that was set up 100 years ago that, of course, revolves around paper. The laws we use actually go back to 1882, to give you an idea. So, of course, we need to reform laws, remove all the legal barriers and enable the whole system to go paperless.
Although there are some countries, that I think France, Germany and indeed here in the UK, we are moving towards a paperless trade.
Yeah, there's been tremendous progress over the last 3 years. It's quite extraordinary, really. The UK actually started the process, so the British government with the G7 ministerial commitment to remove legal barriers. So this year we'll see France, Germany, Japan, US and UK all remove legal barriers by the end of the year.
So what's going to be the obstacles towards rolling this out across the Commonwealth?
Well, the biggest obstacle is capacity in a network like the Commonwealth, and that's pretty much the same worldwide. Every country is starting in a slightly different point. Some are more advanced with infrastructure in place, others less so. And quite often there's not enough legal capacity. So this is about all of us working together now, the private sector and governments, to make this happen, because we have the resources to do it. We just need to work together. We know what the problems are.
How much do you reckon this is costing businesses around the world, this insistence on physical paper?
Oh, it's enormous, absolutely enormous. I think if you look at it in reverse in terms of the benefits, that gives you a good idea. Across the Commonwealth alone, it's 1.1 trillion we're talking about in terms of trade growth. In the UK, it's 224 billion in efficiency savings and 25 billion in
sterling
trade
or dollars?
In the Commonwealth, dollars.
Yeah.
Across the G7, that's 7 trillion, sorry, it's huge. And that's the inefficiency in the system. Everyone always asks me why the number's so big. Well, it's because we're working on a very antiquated set of processes, and it's just about leaping into the 21st century and using technology in a smarter way.
And I gather on a lot of transactions there can be as many as 40 physical pieces of paper flying around at any
Oh, it's unbelievable. I don't think people outside trade realise how antiquated it is. It's extraordinary. I mean, it can take up to 2 to 3 months to transact. You could be dealing with 40 different paper documents, and those are dealt with manually in the main. It's all manual check across multiple parties. It's just incredibly inefficient, and it's totally unnecessary. That's the interesting part. You know, once you use modern technology and modern systems, which already exist, by the way, none of that's necessary, because we don't need to talk about documents. It should be about data.
Yeah.
And of course, then you can actually remove a whole swathe of the process by just using data more efficiently between business and government.
So how optimistic are you that you're going to get an agreement this week?
I'm very optimistic. The Bangladesh government is our lead. I'm the co-lead with them from the business side, and they're making the proposal to trade ministers today at midday. So we're confident that, there's no dispute about digitalisation across trade ministers. It's just about being very, very clear what is the specific task to take us to the next step forward, and importantly, unlock business so that we can all play our full part in the process.
All right, Chris. Well, best of luck with that. Good to see you this morning.
Thank you very much.
Some other business news stories for you now. New car registrations in the UK rose last month for the 10th consecutive month. It's the longest uninterrupted period of growth for the industry since 2015. The Society of Motor Manufacturers and Traders said there were 145,204 new car registrations in May. That was up 16.7% on May last year, but was still down 21% on the same month in 2019, prior to the pandemic. Well, the growth was driven by large fleet registrations, with registrations to private buyers actually falling by 0.5%. The best-selling car during the month was the Ford Puma, followed by the Nissan Qashqai and the Vauxhall Mokka. The global drinks giant Diageo said this morning that Deborah Crew, its incoming chief executive, has taken the role on an interim basis with immediate effect. Well, it comes after it emerged that the current chief executive, Sir Ivan Menezes, suffered a setback following emergency surgery for a stomach ulcer. Sir Ivan was due to retire from Diageo, whose brands include Johnnie Walker Scotch Whisky, Gordon's Gin, Smirnoff Vodka and Guinness, at the end of the month. Diageo said, "Our thoughts are with our much-loved colleague Ivan and his family," and we obviously send our best to him as well, regular guest on this programme. The Australian arm of the business services giant PwC this morning named dozens of current and former staff involved in the leak of confidential government tax plans. They're said to include 9 partners who were stood down and 63 staff and partners who received emails containing information on charges to multinational tax avoidance laws. That confidential information was subsequently used by the firm to win new business. Well, the scandal has rocked PwC, whose conduct has been referred by the country's government to the Australian Federal Police. Well, the oil price is trading higher after Saudi Arabia announced a voluntary production cut of 1 million barrels per day. As from next month. A barrel of Brent crude currently will cost you $77.85 a barrel. That's up 2.25% on the session. On the equity markets, following Wall Street's strong showing on Friday evening, stocks in the Asia-Pacific region had a solid session overnight. The Nikkei in the top left-hand corner there, as you can see, up 2.25%. That's another 33-year high. Well, in Europe, stocks have been mixed this morning so far. As you can see, the CAC 40 in France and the MIB in Milan in negative territory. The DAX in Germany and the IBEX in Madrid in positive territory right now. It's all pretty flattish looking at that, though, to be honest. Talking points today include Viaplay, the Swedish streaming company. Its shares are off 58% in Stockholm following a profits warning that has led to the departure of its chief executive. Well, here in London, as you can see, the FTSE 100 is currently some 40 points to the good, nearly up 0.5%. The oil heavyweights, you will not be surprised to learn, are lending support there. The leading blue chip gainer in percentage terms, though, is the fund manager Aberdeen, and that's after it announced a share buyback programme worth up to £150 million. A lot of things going on outside the FTSE. ASOS, the online fashion retailer, the share's up 10.5%. That's after the Sunday Times reported it received a takeover approach from the Turkish company Trendyol in December. Elsewhere, the pharma company Indivior is ahead by some 9.5% after it settled a US lawsuit. You might recall we had the CEO of that particular company on the programme fairly recently. Meanwhile, Dr. Martens, the shares there, investors putting the boot in. The shares of another 2.75% following Friday's disappointing trading update. On the foreign exchange markets, it's all about the US dollar, really on the front foot following Friday's stronger than expected US jobs data. The pound is off nearly 0.5% lower against the dollar. The euro is off by just under 1/6 against the greenback. Meanwhile, the pound also down by 1/3 roughly against the single currency. Well, joining me this morning is Will Hobbs. He's Chief Investment Officer for UK Wealth Management at Barclays. Will, good to see you this morning. We've got to start with the oil price, I guess. Are you surprised there hasn't been more of a reaction? Because this is a big chunk out of Saudi production.
Yeah, morning, Ian. It's big, but it's temporary. I think that's one thing to bear in mind. And I think that, one of the things about the oil price so far this year, and this goes for sort of, investments more broadly, the China reopening story has been the elephant, the whale in the bathtub, I guess. And so far what we've seen is that has been focused primarily, the reopening story and all the kind of good news has been focused on consumer services. And that's obviously, it's been much less investment heavy. And therefore that has been, it's demanded less in the way of oil and other commodities. So commodity prices have been a bit weaker over the course of the year. And that is probably, not really going to change that much in the short term, certainly. But yes, interesting.
It is. I mean, the other interesting things that have come out of this, I mean, Saudi's acting unilaterally. We're told that some African countries may be forced to cut production at some point. But I mean, the big question, that the sort of geopolitical question around this is whether Russia is forced to follow suit at some point.
Well, yes. I mean, and again, this is, just part of an incredibly complex commodity story at the moment, as we know. And, better than anyone, Ian, that, oil, in a sense, is produced by a cartel. You want to be careful about discerning the motivations of that cartel. It can surprise on a regular basis. The broader picture, though, is really interesting, I think, for the global economy at the moment, because obviously you've got this, the incoming price to be paid for last year's interest rate shock. That's still to be determined. And the US data last week is still showing that the US economy is still straining at its leash a little bit. And then you've got this kind of growing excitement on the medium term with regards to a potential return of productivity growth in the form, driven by the advances in generative AI. So commodities, stocks, bonds, it's a really complicated moment for investors to try and sort of work their way through, even though we've got beyond the debt ceiling and some of the other issues that were kind of looming large.
Yeah, you raise a very good point there, Will. I mean, the Friday jobs numbers were really very strong. I mean, people will be amazed given the velocity at which the Fed has raised interest rates over the last 12 months.
Yeah, I mean, we're reminded again, Ian, that, labour market data are lagging. It's generally the last shoe to drop. But yes, you are right. There is still considerable momentum in certain parts of the US economy. There has been a great deal of resilience so far to that interest rate shock. And, a real 2-year interest rates rising by as much as they would in decades in the space of years, in the space of months. But so far, like you say, like Friday's data is still telling us. We'll see a bit more today of the leading indicators side. We've got the ISM surveys, business survey data coming out, which will give us a bit more of a look about what's coming down the pike. But certainly, the sense is that US policymakers have still got more to do to slow the US and global economy and bring inflation back to heel.
All right, Will, got to leave it there. Good to talk to you as ever. Thank you.
Still to come on Ian King Live, I'm at the High Court where Prince Harry is due to take centre stage in his fight against the tabloid press. Hello again from the High Court, where legal proceedings are just getting underway in Prince Harry's case against the publisher of the Mirror newspaper. Now, Prince Harry's lawyers and Mirror Group newspaper's legal team are beginning to set out their opening arguments on the case. The Duke of Sussex claims journalists at the Mirror Group, which includes the Sunday Mirror and Sunday People, were linked to methods including phone hacking, so-called blagging, or gaining information by deception, and the use of private investigators for unlawful activities. Well, we're going to be bringing you all the events from inside court live throughout the day and throughout the week here on the Sky News channel, and also on our live blog that you can follow on the Sky News mobile app. And with me throughout will be our royal correspondent, Laura Bundock, and media lawyer, Jonathan Code. Laura, a big moment for Prince Harry this week. He hasn't arrived yet today, but just begin by outlining what we can expect today.
What we can expect to hear is the arguments for his legal team in terms of his case to answer, and then how Mirror Group are going to respond to that. But for Harry himself, this is a massive personal moment. He has spoken, we've heard, haven't we, how the intrusion of the press, the fact he believes that his life was being hacked into, his private life, his personal life, everything he did at work as well, from a very young age, that he struggled, he became suspicious, he couldn't trust people close to him. He felt that, and there was nowhere that was off limits in his life. He suffered huge bouts of depression and paranoia as a result of this. And he is now on this personal mission to try and change things. Look, I don't think there is anybody here today who would argue in favour of phone hacking. Clearly it was illegal, and it was not a practice that any journalist would condone today. But I think Harry has this much bigger mission here. He wants to make change. He's said he's going to make it his life's work to see those very senior executives who he believes and alleges knew exactly what was going on. He says, and he's argued, that they not only knew what was going on, they tried to conceal it, they tried to hide it. And in some cases, they were even commissioning phone hacking and this unlawful information gathering. So this is a huge moment for him. And he will have 2 days in the witness stand where he will be very exposed. Everything we've heard from Harry, he's been in control of the narrative. He will not have that same control here. And I've never appeared as a witness at the High Court. You can only imagine, once you're in there, you are totally on your own. It is very exposing, and he will be facing some very, very rigorous legal questioning.
OK, Laura, thanks. And Jonathan, you know, as Laura was saying, they're very, very different to a media interview. You, of course, understand only too well the goings-on inside court. And Mirror Group newspapers' lawyers will very much focus on what Harry knew and when, right?
First of all, I've also been cross-examined twice in the witness box, and it's quite tough. Yes, the key battleground is exactly that, Sally. So for the Mirror Group, they're trying to knock this out sort of on a technicality. What the Mirror Group want to do is persuade the judge that the information that Harry gathered about all this over the years should have triggered this case a long time before it actually started. So the law says he should bring the case 6 years after the wrongdoing occurred. But what the law also says is if he didn't know that the wrongdoing happened and couldn't have found it out in that time, then the limitation period gets moved back. So the background is Mirror saying, Judge, look, he must have known this was going on. He should have brought the case earlier. You should strike it out. Prince Harry saying, I didn't know and I couldn't have known.
Now, Jonathan, we've had some breaking news this hour as well from ITV. Holly Willoughby back on air on this morning after, of course, the scandal that's embroiled ITV and Philip Schofield this week, in recent weeks. Now, you are Philip Schofield's lawyer. I can't have you on without asking you about this. How do you, what do you make of the recent media coverage, and how have you found your role as his lawyer?
My role was very simple, and that's to get the truth out on Philip's behalf. There has been an awful lot of bad stuff in the media about Philip which isn't true, which I know because I've had access to all the relevant information. So that's the limit of it, getting the truth out and trying to knock out as much of the stuff which isn't true as possible.
OK, really interesting. Thanks so much for indulging me in a question on that. Jonathan, Laura, we'll be back to you very shortly. Do stay with us here on Sky News. We'll be bringing you all those events as they break from inside court throughout the day and throughout the week. That's it from me for now, though, and we are keeping an eye out, of course, for Prince Harry's arrival. Still no sign of him yet. And don't forget, there'll also be a special programme each evening this week at 9 p.m. examining the case and all the events in court. Do stay with us on the Sky News channel. See you very shortly. Back to Ian.
Thanks, Ali. Now, NatWest has just completed a major acquisition. It's paying £144 million for an 85% stake in Cushion, a fast-growing financial technology business. Well, Cushion partners with employers in the provision of workplace pensions and other savings products, including ISAs. It already runs pensions and other investors for 500,000 employees in the UK, including staff at Asda, Marks & Spencer and Samsung. Well, joining me now is the co-founder and chief executive of Cushion, Ben Pollard, and Peter Flavel, the chief executive of NatWest Wealth Businesses. Welcome to you both. Peter, let me start with you. Why did you want this business?
Well, at the NatWest Group, Ian, we bank 1 in 5 companies across the UK. And we know that around 9 million of our personal customers pay their salary into their current account each month. And so there's a large opportunity in terms of the needs of those customers. And of course, those corporate customers need to have a pension plan. And we need to be where our customers are. And what Ben's put together is an app-led service for pensions and ISAs and workplace financial services. So
you're looking essentially to leverage this into other, is workplace pensions the focus for you here, really?
Well, workplace financial services, so it includes pensions, and we want people to understand their whole financial life, not just their pensions, but the pensions is a big part of it. And so there are 33 million people employed in the UK, and when they're at work, somewhere there on the intranet is their pension. And so we want to be at work delivering financial services to them.
Of course, your part of the business also includes Coots and some very high-end people. This feels like you're going more for the sort of mass market.
This is a retail and mass affluent proposition, fundamentally. People at high net worth still need pensions, but this fundamentally is about retail and affluent customers.
So, Ben, what was the origin of the business?
So I often say the story of Cushion is the story of an indignant actuary, that being me. I went to set up an ISA for myself, and with my actuarial background thought that ought to be a straightforward process. I was aghast at the quality of information that was being served up to me, bore no relation to the information I knew big companies used to invest their own money, and set about applying my actuarial skills and building Cushion to make it easier for normal people.
But it's quite a thing from a startup position to have people like Asda and Marks & Spencer on your client list. How did you build scale?
Absolutely. We've been delighted, absolutely delighted. So we've our pitch was essentially, it's wonderful that all employers provide, help their employees save for retirement, but why don't you also help save your employees save to get on the housing ladder, or save for your next holiday rather than putting it on the credit card? And the response we generally got from employers, well, yeah, that's a good point. I don't know why we don't do that. That's a big part of the ingredients that have got us to where we've got to.
Obviously, there's a cost of living crisis going on right now. A lot of people may not be prioritising saving. Are you seeing any evidence of that on your platform?
No, not at all. It's been remarkable, actually, how strongly pension contributions have held up through the cost of living crisis. And in fact, it's shone a spotlight on the importance of, from an employer's perspective, getting value for money out of the amount of money that you're putting into your employees' pensions on their behalf, and really getting a pension scheme that they value and engage in and can see the benefit of is crucially important to employers in this cost of living
crisis. You're nodding along there, Peter.
Well, and one of the words that Ben just used is engage. And so we've got to get people to understand they need to engage with their pension. It's not something that their employer provides to them. Actually, it's their pot of money, and they need to understand how important that is to their long-term financial lives. The other part of that is, as your pension pot increases, actually for your own carbon footprint, a considerable part of your carbon footprint is the way that those monies are invested as well.
It's currently loss-making Cushion. Is going to be turning it into a profitable business a priority for you? Is this all about building wider scale in the NatWest Group as a whole?
Well, certainly it's going to be profitable, Ian. That is the requirement. We've already got 500,000 customers in Cushion already, and we think we can build it to several times that size.
There's a lot of talk in the air right now about potentially compelling people to, or pension schemes, to put some of their money into a British growth fund. Rachel Reeves wants to see it, for example. What are your thoughts on that?
So I think the principle of investing in ways that help people's lives in the way they live is a really positive thing. The analogy I like to use, it's like investing in your own home as opposed to investing in your neighbour's home. It's just a kind of logical, obvious thing for me. So we're supportive of the principle of encouraging investment in the UK. The mechanism through which that's done, whether it's compulsion or other mechanisms, we're a bit more we're less concerned
Sceptical,
about.
yeah. Peter?
Well, I'm in the incentive basket, Ian. I don't think things should be made compulsory. Trustees should be making the right commercial decisions around the long-term performance of the fund. But what is important is we've got too many master trusts and too many small pots. So as funds consolidate, and they're larger, that would enable them to have an allocation to longer-dated, more illiquid investments. So that consolidation is important.
And yeah, it's interesting. You think that's coming. I mean, there's been a lot of talk again among the politicians about this. You think that's coming down the road?
I think it should come down the road, Ian, yes.
All right, Peter, Ben, good to see you both this morning. Thank you.
Thank you.
Well, still to come here on Ian King Live, the first UK-based medicinal cannabis manufacturer announces full-year results. Stay with us.
Okay, well, the reason we're here today is that we have a search warrant for your house.
Okay.
All right. Do you know what this might be about?
I have no idea.
Okay. This is about possible mishandling of classified information.
Oh my goodness, okay.
Mm-hmm.
The FBI recorded it that day, so there was a transcript, and all the dialogue in the movie comes directly verbatim from the transcript. That was on June 3rd, 2017, that the FBI surprised Reality at her home. She was living in Augusta, Georgia. She was working at the NSA there. Several weeks before, she had printed out this classified information she saw that did prove that there had been a Russian interference, specifically in Florida, in attempts to get into the election. And affect it. So she had printed that out and mailed it to a news outlet. And then several weeks later, the FBI showed up at her house. So we start essentially with her a little earlier that morning, but that day of June 3rd, and then the FBI roll up, and this kind of surreal actual conversation and interrogation unfolds in her yard and at her house. I mean, at first they're just being a little cagey, and they keep making it very conversational, and they chat with her a lot about her dogs and where her cats are. But, then they're constantly sort of also asking these other questions. And they do say, we're here for some classified information. But for a very long time, she plays it very cool in real life. She plays it very cool with them too. So you don't really know exactly what is going on for so long, because she really stays head to head with them. And it sometimes is weirdly funny. And then they talk about CrossFit for a while, but they always come back to this kind of more penetrating question. So you can't ever really relax, and she can't ever really relax.
Global insight, made local. Invest in your future. Sky News Financial Reports, sponsored by Interactive Investor. Invest in your future. Sky News Financial Reports, sponsored by Interactive Investor.
Welcome back. Now, 10 days ago, it was confirmed that Germany is in recession after Europe's biggest economy was buffeted by the twin blows of higher interest rates and higher energy prices. Well, one good barometer of German business health is Sirius Real Estate, the FTSE 250 owner and operator of business and industrial parks, both in Germany and here in the UK. Today, it reported a pre-tax profit of 87 million euros for the year to the end of March. That was down from 168.9 million euros in the same period a year earlier, and that reflected property revaluations. Well, joining me now is Andrew Coombs, the Chief Executive of Sirius Real Estate. Andrew, welcome to you. I mean, clearly headline profits affected by valuations, but what's going on beneath the surface?
Well, morning, Ian. Thank you very much for having me on this morning. Sirius, as you know, is an on-balance sheet play operating in Germany and the UK. And really, we make money in two ways. Firstly, it's through revaluation of property. But actually, what we do that a lot of companies don't is we make very significant operating profits. In this period, our gross operating profit before tax is 96 million, which is 25% up on the previous year. So, you know, I always say that in a time like this, it's cash that really matters. Property valuation is, you know, until you sell something, really a matter of theory. What is a matter of practice is how much cash you throw off. And what we've been able to do is increase our funds from operations to over 100 million euros, which means our dividend in this period is going up by 28%, which, you know, our shareholders obviously think is quite a healthy position.
I take from all of that, Andrew, that you've been able to put up rents despite this sort of fairly unpromising background.
We have. What we've been able to do is increase rents across the group by just over 8%. And we're fortunate because we have a platform of 450 people operating in 150 locations across 2 countries. And what that means is, rather than doing a lot of business with our customers through intermediaries, we can actually get close to our customers, understand their business, and understand opportunities whereby we can commit more value to them in terms of the services we provide, but increase the price as a result. So I guess what I'm saying is, we're not going to customers and saying inflation says price has to go up. We're going to customers and finding out how to deliver more services and get the price increase as a result of that. And that's a key driver of the increase in funds from operations.
And customers are going along with that. I mean, have you seen an increase in void periods?
In the UK, what we've done is we've seen a loss of about 4 percentage points of occupancy, whilst we've been able to increase the rental overall by 8%. In Germany, occupancy's been far more stable. But I would say that, you know, what is happening is the range of services that customers are looking for has actually increased, because what they're doing is they're looking to take more from one single supplier and try and, you know, make some price efficiencies as a result of that. And that, for somebody like Sirius with over 10,000 tenants, is a real opportunity to extend the services we offer our customers.
How concerned are you about the state of the German economy right now? Do you think this is going to be a long, drawn-out recession or a fairly shallow, short one?
Well, it's quite interesting because obviously the headlines are all about the technical recession that was announced 10 days ago. But if you look at the last inflation print, what you're actually seeing in Germany is you're seeing headline inflation come down from 7.6% to 6.6%. And you're seeing the underlying rate of inflation begin to tick down. Now, that is obviously contrary to what we're seeing in the UK. Part of what's driving that in Germany is that Germany have very much now got a hold of the gas crisis. They've replaced the loss of supply from Nord Stream 1 with additional gas from Holland and also from Norway. And of course, what's happening now is liquid nitrogen is now coming on stream. Over 5% of Germany's energy is now coming from liquid nitrogen. And what that means is the cost of gas and electricity in Germany is coming down. And that, of course, is affecting the rate of headline inflation.
It's very interesting that, I mean, the Germans have been looking for years to build an LNG terminal, but they could never get it through the planning applications. I mean, it's just gone through now. Does that potentially herald a sort of more open approach from the German authorities towards the planning regime?
I think definitely what has happened is when the increase in utility prices happened, suddenly what it meant was there were things that people supplying Germany could invest in that previously were uneconomical. But against the inflated prices, the return on investment was completely different. So I think what you've probably seen in the last 12 months is, things that normally would have taken 5 to 10 years to achieve have been achieved very, very quickly against the backdrop of the energy crisis.
All right, Andrew, busy day for your results day. Do appreciate you spending the time to chat to us today.
Thank you very much indeed.
Now, the use of cannabis for medicines in the UK has grown rapidly since government reforms opened up the industry in 2018. Well, the company Celadon Pharmaceuticals was the first UK-based medical cannabis manufacturer to be granted a Home Office licence to sell its products in the UK. Today, it reported a pre-tax loss of £18.1 million for 2022. That was up from one of £4.8 million in 2021, largely reflecting higher costs. Well, joining me now is Arthur Wakely. He's Managing Director of Celadon Pharmaceuticals. Arthur, welcome to you. Where have you been putting capital to work primarily?
Morning, Ian, and thanks very much for having me on the show. Well, I think really today's results are a strong set of results reflecting the substantial investment we've made in this business over the past 12 to 18 months since we IPO'd on the London Stock Exchange. Really, over the last year, we have been investing heavily in building out our facility up in the West Midlands. It's a 100,000 square foot facility to really build the leading manufacturing base for cannabis-based medicines in the UK. Since we IPO'd, we set out some strong targets and ambitious targets to build the platform for growth of this business. And we're pleased to report that earlier this year, we became one of only 2 companies of our kind licensed in the UK by the Home Office and the healthcare regulators to develop and to commercially sell pharmaceutical-grade medicines to the UK market. We've also been rolling out our clinical trial in chronic pain. We onboarded the first patients at the back end of last year and concluded that study successfully, submitting the data to the regulator with really positive data for chronic pain reduction, sleep, and also opioid reduction as well. So it's a strong set of results in, and really the capital has been about expanding our facility and our manufacturing footprint to really set us up to deliver on revenue. And in the past few weeks, we've announced our first commercial contracts for around £3 million of product. So a big vote of confidence in Celadon's ability to supply this market.
Now, your business model entails cultivating your own cannabis rather than buying it in from someone else. Why have you gone down that road?
So it's a really good point, because the UK market, since cannabis-based medicines were legalised in 2018, has really had a very nascent regulatory framework. So what it has seen is that the country has basically had to import all its cannabis-based medicines into the UK. That leads to high costs and a lot of delays and out of stocks for patients, which is a really unacceptable situation when you look at a lot of these patients with severely disabling conditions, whether it's chronic pain or epilepsy. The big unlock for the UK market for cannabis-based medicines is having domestic production of pharmaceutical-grade cultivation and products that we can deliver to this market. That hopefully brings the cost down, it brings the time to market down. And what we at Celadon have invested in is indoor hydroponic cultivation, and we put the systems in place to manufacture these medicines to a pharmaceutical grade. We've also really invested in the clinical trials so that we can provide the data to the healthcare regulators, give doctors the confidence in prescribing, and also hopefully enable reimbursement in the NHS. So that's why our strategy is based on UK production, not importing products from abroad. And it's such a big unlock for the market.
Obviously, cannabis plants require a lot of heat and light. Presumably your energy bills have been a headache in this period.
They've certainly been higher than we would like, Ian, but we've kept a really tight eye in terms of cost this year. And we've actually used the past year to transition to renewable energy, which we announced at the start of the year, and to explore solar options on site as well. But really, as we look back, these are medicines which are high margin and really high grade pharmaceutical medicines as well. So while cost is important, what's really important for us is developing these medicines and getting them to patients. If we think about why there are around 8 million chronic pain sufferers in the UK who really have no access to current medications since 2021, when the UK government advised against opioid usage long-term for chronic pain. So there's a substantial market opportunity for our products. Yes, cost is important, but we've got to look past the noise and look at the substantial market opportunity that we have here.
OK, Arthur, good to talk to you this morning. Thanks very much indeed for joining me.
Thanks very much, Ian.
Well, before I go, just time to show you some pictures that we've got coming in from Dover. The Prime Minister is on a border force boat in Dover. He's giving a speech during the next hour or so on stopping small boats crossing the channel. We will hope to bring you details of that as soon as we get them. Much more, of course, on the Sky News mobile app and on the website with reporting, video content and analysis from our business team. Well, I'm back at 10 o'clock tomorrow morning. Hope very much to see you then. In the meantime, do stay tuned. After this short break, we're going to be going back to Sally Lockwood at the High Court for all the latest on Prince Harry's case against the Mirror Group newspapers. See you tomorrow. Thanks for joining me today. Cheerio.